Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we've got a stack of sources that takes us far beyond any textbook or traditional science. We're going to be investigating consciousness itself.
Right. Specifically the consciousness of animals and some pretty esoteric ideas about how reality works here on Earth.
And your primary source for this is, well, it's highly unconventional.
It is. It's a transcript from an investigative hypnosis session. This is a form of deep trance work where the subject claims to access non-physical information.
So we have to suspend our usual scientific filter here.
We do. The content is inherently symbolic, metaphysical.
Okay, so our mission today is to kind of navigate two threads at once. First, we're going to unpack the absolutely wild claims this session makes about animal intelligence, karma, and felina, and how certain life forms are literally programmed into reality.
And second, and this is the really crucial part for you, the learner, we have to constantly apply the critical framework that the source itself provides.
It criticizes its own method.
It does. It offers a powerful internal critique, basically warning us that the vast majority of what we're about to discuss, it might be highly distorted.
All right, let's jump right in then. The core question. Do animals have consciousness, or is it all just instinct?
According to this session, they absolutely possess consciousness. It's often perceived as an expanded consciousness.
Like expanded.
Yes, and the source suggests the animal kingdom is structured with different levels, different functions of intelligence.
So it's not just about survival instinct. We're talking about actual intelligence.
Exactly. The source breaks it down into three types. First, there's survival intelligence, adaptation.
Sure.
Second is emotional intelligence, which it describes as purely empathetic. And then the most surprising one, a third type, a specific therapeutic or esoteric intelligence.
Therapeutic intelligence. That sounds like it connects directly to our relationship with them.
It does.
So which animals are the primary carriers of this function?
It's mostly seen in the intelligent mammals, so dolphins, felines, canines, and interestingly, certain horned animals. The text cites deer as an example.
And what do they do?
Their consciousness is seen as having this ability to perform a kind of energetic therapy. It's like they're a substitute for something human consciousness lacks.
Okay, let's unpack this expanded consciousness and, hold it up against our own. If animals are just focused on just being, where does the human mind complicate things?
Well, the fascinating thing here is the difference in potential, or as the source calls it, vibration or frequency.
A different frequency.
Right. Animal consciousness is simpler because it lacks that intense mental intelligence we use for thought, for language, for meaning. The human mind, the mental part, is cited as driving a staggering 90% of our total consciousness.
So the mental block is the main differentiator. We get logic and language, but we pay some kind of spiritual price for that complexity.
The source suggests exactly that. Animal consciousness just expresses itself without the dense filtering, the ego-driven patterns that our minds impose.
Which leads to the idea of ego.
It does. The observation is that in many animals, and it excludes those on the lowest frequency, band ego simply doesn't exist.
That sounds like a spiritual ideal, but what about aggression? Pack hierarchy, predators. How does the source separate ego from, natural drive?
It does, but implicitly. It links the human problem to our suppression of empathy. We often push empathy down because it gets tangled up with our ego, with societal pressures.
And the animal doesn't have that filter.
Exactly. It naturally embodies the empathetic state we have to actively suppress.
Okay, that makes sense for individual consciousness. But what about connectivity? Does the source say that all terrestrial animal consciousness, pools together into one big unified field?
No, it actually denies that. It says there's no single unified consciousness for all terrestrial animals.
Why not?
The session claims they originate from different dimensions and just have varied levels of intelligence and frequency.
And here's where it gets really esoteric. Deep metaphysics. Let's talk about karma and energy transfer. Do animals carry their own karmic baggage?
The source is very clear. They do not. Not their own, anyway. Not from life to life.
What?
But they can absorb energy from the human quantum field. And this absorption mechanism is particularly intense in domesticated animals.
And companion animals, like our dogs or cats, they're the key to this connection. Why are they singled out?
They're the only animals that form these profound, specific karmic connections with individual humans. And this is where the claim gets, particularly alarming.
Go on.
If a companion animal dies before it's human, the source claims its energy can become trapped in that person's quantum field.
Trapped. And what happens to that trapped energy?
It can be used in the human reincarnation process. The source describes the whole system of human reincarnation as functioning like an AI matching algorithm.
An algorithm?
Yes. It uses subliminal information, DNA, to create matches based on compatibility and resonance, not some divine judgment. And the energy of that deceased pet can be used in this mechanical matching process.
So reincarnation isn't about spiritual progress. It's just a functional, mechanical sorting process driven by genetics and energy.
That's the implication of the source. But now, before we go on, we have to bring back that critical framework.
Right.
This whole high-stakes hypothesis, AI algorithms, trapped animal energy, it comes from a single session. And according to the source's own rules, that means this claim is likely highly contaminated.
A necessary caveat. Okay, now for the most shocking claim of all. Animals bred for sacrifice or food, like cattle. The source says that outside of 3D space, these animals are very transparent. What does it mean by a creation or fabrication?
This is maybe the hardest concept to process. Animals bred for food are perceived as a sheer creation or fabrication in Earth space. Outside the 3D plane, they appear almost holographic, thin, transparent.
So does that mean they lack that metaphysical spark, the inner life we'd attribute to a conscious being? Are they just organic automation?
According to this session, yes. They are described as having no inherent consciousness, only a program, a genetic fabrication.
And where did this program come from?
It was brought in as information from elsewhere. It didn't develop naturally biologically. Upon death, their energy is instantly absorbed back into that controlling program. They are, in essence, functional food machines.
That creates this huge metaphysical divide between a natural animal like a dolphin and a fabricated one like cattle. What about creatures on the lowest end of the spectrum, like insects?
Insects are categorized even lower. They're claimed to have no consciousness at all. They belong to a sub-zero or zero frequency band.
Then what is their function if they aren't conscious life forms?
They're viewed as a kind of advanced biological technology. The source calls them a natural exteriorization of the planet's energy, almost like something growing on the planet's skin. They belong strictly to the physical Earth, to Terra, not the metaphysical realm.
Okay, let's bring this from the metaphysical back to our physical world. Why does the source link this animal fabrication to human diet? Why is meat eating such a persistent part of human existence?
The suggestion is that consuming animal meat is tied directly to sustaining the physical body, specifically the musculature, the skeleton. But the crucial detail is in the genetics of the human body.
Decode that for us. Why would meat be necessary for some people but not others?
The source suggests meat consumption is often necessary for bodies created through what it calls a specific reptiloid incarnation, which possesses an underlying genetic fabrication.
So it's about matching genetics.
It's about maintenance of physicality and grounding. You're sustaining the same genetics of that created body template. Essentially, that body needs that specific frequency, that fuel, to function correctly.
That has huge relevance for the listener. The source is saying diet might not always be philosophical. It could be a physical requirement, rooted in pre-programmed genetics.
That's the idea.
So what happens if someone with that genetic makeup tries to abstain from meat?
Well, the source suggests that when their bodies are deprived of this, necessary component, frustrations, and bad tempers can surface. They lack something their programmed body needs, and that nutritional lack can just exacerbate their existing negative energetic state.
Let's shift to ritual. How does this genetically programmed body link to something like the biblical concept of animal sacrifice?
The sacrifice is seen as a mechanism, a tool used by specific entities, the ones who requested the sacrifice, to open an energetic gate.
A gate opened by?
By a combination of fear, terror, and crucially, the acceptance of the human performing the ritual.
And what's the role of the blood and DNA in that?
The blood and DNA act as an imprinting of memory at the energetic level. It marks the human, at the moment of taking a physical body, as accepting that specific entity's DNA or program. It's like an energetic contract sealed through the trauma of the act.
This entire system, programmed cows, genetic reincarnation algorithms, it's a complete reconstruction of reality, which means we have to bring that critical framework right back to the front.
Exactly. And this raises the most important question for you, the listener. How reliable is any of this? The source itself provides a profound warning about the investigative hypnosis method.
And the news is not good for relying on a single transcript, is it?
Absolutely not. The source explicitly warns that information from a single session is highly contaminated. The percentage of distortion is deemed absolutely high.
Why so high? Why is it so prone to distortion?
Well, think about it. The information has to travel across many dimensions, many densities. It passes through multiple consciousnesses, and then it has to be interpreted by the hypnotized subject's mind, filtered through their beliefs, their culture, their subconscious.
It's like a game of cosmic telephone.
It's like trying to shout a complex physics equation across a crowded theater in a language you only sort of understand.
So if most of the data is garbage, as the source implies, what's the standard for reliable information in this field?
Reliability, according to the source, requires thousands of sessions with different people, different operator, all over the world. Only the information that is absolutely common, that's shared across a vast majority of sessions, is taken as good.
And what percentage of all the information gathered actually meets that standard?
The estimate is incredibly low, maybe only 2 to 3%. The source explicitly calls the rest of it garbage.
Wow.
It forces us to approach this entire source not as fact, but as a compelling piece of metafiction, a hypothesis.
A very complicated, high-stakes hypothesis. That puts everything we just discussed into stark perspective. If one session provides so little reliable data, how is this information even used practically?
It's used primarily as a vehicle to identify and work on the client's current life problem. It's about moving the operator towards the cause of the client's issue, not about writing a metaphysical encyclopedia.
This has been a deep dive into extremes. We've covered these two incredible threads.
Yeah.
The extraordinary, intricate claims about animal fabrication, varied consciousness, and this heavily programmed physical world.
And we paired that with the source's own mandate for extreme skepticism. It instructs you, the learner, that nearly all single-session esoteric data has to be treated as highly contaminated.
What really stands out is this idea that consciousness in this system is highly varied and structured. It has specific functional purposes, like the therapeutic role of mammals or the purely functional fabricated role of others.
Precisely. And if we circle back to companion animals and energy absorption, if, as the source suggests, the most advanced animals can absorb our negative energies to purify our quantum field, what does it say about our current state of human evolution?
Go on.
That our companions must physically shorten their own lives to compensate for our inability to process our own emotional and mental baggage.
That is certainly something for you to mull or explore on your own. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.